Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. It's the countdown show. Head-to-head finals are here, so it could be sudden death this weekend. We've got the reigning champion, Tim Moody, here as well. How's your team travelling?
Not too shabby, man. I captained Cleary last week, which was pretty sad, having him going for the rest of the year, but I only dropped one rank. It was a missed opportunity to jump, obviously, but yeah, it is what it is, and onwards.
If you didn't captain Cleary, imagine what would have happened there.
Yeah, it would have been a decent week.
I captain Cleary as well, and it's basically sort of season over for me for now. So concentrating on the head-to-heads. And on that, obviously a pod move late in the round or whenever, something to take your opponent off guard will be crucial this week. What are you thinking? What's your big, if you do need to pull a big pod move, what would it be?
Well, I'm down to 2 trades and both my halfbacks have got injuries. I'm going to hold on Moses for a little bit, sell Cleary.
Yep.
It's not a pod move because he's one of the most commonly owned players. It's Nico Hines, so I need to get him in. He's just a necessity. But in regards to pods, it's going to be captains. I've thought about it, done some crunching of my mind, and it is going to be captains. I'm not going to go ballistic and do really wacky moves. I still want to go, he can still score very well and should, but he's not going to be the most common one.
Right.
I'm going to try to avoid the most common, unless it's just that standout.
Being a bit cagey there, who are you thinking? Who could
this
be
week?
Who could be your late? Who could be your late captaincy choice?
Geez, there's a lot of head-to-head things on the line. I'll do a teams list pre-captain's run. So I'm probably thinking I'll throw some names out, some big names for you. Cam Munster, Latrell Mitchell, Hines, the new boy to the side. Yeah. It's probably around those 3 names. If I feel like I've thrown out too many others, I'm being too wishy-washy. So
for me, if I was going to do a real Hail Mary pod move, if I'm way behind in this round, I'll go, Dewey's coming in for me anyway, but the captaincy on Dewey in that final game up against the Knights, who, let's face it, the Knights are in absolute shambles at the moment. So not just on the field, but off the field this week with all the Davey Clemmer and all sorts of other scandals happening up there. So Dewey as captain could be my little Hail Mary at the end of the round.
I wouldn't shy away from it because I've been really tempted to use that last trade just to get him in. But I thought, look, if I have carnage of other injuries over the next 4 rounds that we've still got to do after this round, I'm going to be really angry at myself. So, but for Dewey, yeah, man, especially this game. Like, this game is just the dream game. I'm so scared about not owning him in this game. The other games, I'll deal with it. I feel like he'll probably get some good 80s, 90s and some good scores even against good matchups. But I am scared this week of not owning Dewey.
Yep, Dewey's in for me. That's my only trade for now. I could be tempted by getting Jerome Hughes tomorrow too. But look, Hughes, for me, I've got trades. So I could even bring in Hughes for this week and then sell him next week because he's got the easy matchup this week against the Titans, and then he's got pretty tough matchups to end the season. So that's kind of in the back of my mind now, but as soon as you start thinking that, there's going to be about 7 or 8 players get injured straight away and you'll be stuffed. Let's move on to final teams. They've just dropped no changes for the Roosters, and at the Broncos, they've got Walters. It's a pretty obvious switch, really. Walters goes to the bench, and Turpin starts, not Tapane.
It's easy to do.
Just my writing.
Happens to the best of us, obviously.
My handwriting's so bad.
Even Sangster.
Yeah, my handwriting's way too bad. So no real big changes there, but I guess the big decision to make tonight is, do you VC someone from this game for potentially James Tedesco?
Yeah, I mean, James Tedesco is the one that I'm sort of like scared to fade a little bit. I might get trigger fingers and do it by the time if the gut starts to tell me to do it. I've just looked at Tedesco and Manu, and I just think that Tedesco has scored that whopping score of 176 against them in the past. I looked at Manu's record, and it's not that impressive against them in the past. So I look a little bit into that history, especially when they've played like 10 games at least against a club. So Teddy does look particularly juicy. But the thing is for me with Teddy is how are the Broncos going to turn up? Like, they got beat pretty much smashed by the Tigers. I think they're the type of club that are going to want to prove they're the real deal, because if they do get walloped tonight, people are going to be doubting their credentials, and they don't need that sort of stress.
I tend to agree, but I much prefer to back them when they're playing at Suncorp Stadium. At the SCG, the Roosters are pretty damn good, and Teddy's really good there too.
I'm not saying that I think they'll come and win the game. I've got no idea how the game's going to go, you know what I mean? Like, I think it could be a walkover from the Roosters by all accounts, but I think the Broncos could be up for it and beat them in a close one.
Teddy does average 80 at the SCG, which is a pretty good level for him. So, look, for me, he's locked in as VC, but my chances of using the VC loophole are pretty low, given how my team's shaping up at the moment.
What's on my mind, I will mention the VC loophole. A lot of people have Momasia in their side as their loophole guy. I'm one of them.
Yes, I do too.
He's on the extended bench this week for Newcastle, which is in the last game of the round.
Ooh, yeah.
So just be really cautious about that. Keep a very close eye on. You won't be able to loop if they bring him into the 17 or 18th man even.
And one other point on loopholes as well is that Grant Anderson could be ruled out this week, or miss the squad this week rather, which means he could now become your loophole man in the second game of the week. So that's even a bigger reason to put the VC on someone tonight, and Tedesco's obviously the number one option. Or it could be someone like Joey Manu as well. Look, so many questions popping in already. Plenty about Ethan Bullymore for some reason. Let's get to them now. We'll pimp your teams. Of course, if you do, send through your zingers as well, and if you get the zinger of the week, you can win one of these balls on here, and you'll get that pop up on the screen as well. And Tigany, who is producing tonight, has just sent out a whole bunch of balls. Oh, we've got the details of people, so we've sent out a whole bunch of balls hopefully in the next few days. So send your zingers through, and if you do win, you could win one of these. David, this is from David. He's asking, David Fafita to Murray or Nanai? First of all, would you sell David Fafita? I mean, I know I own him, and he's not like an emergency sell for me. I feel like he could bust out with absolutely nothing to play for at any stage.
I think you need to trust your gut on it. I think if he's just in your side and he's annoying you, I was looking at him this week thinking, okay, I don't think he's scored more than 50 against the Storm ever. This is a bit of a weaker Storm with a few more issues, so it could be a different story possibly, depending on how many other players come in for the Storm, whether they are that depleted in the back line. But I don't know about I'd maybe sit him, but I don't know. Yeah, no, you can't sell him. He's got it in him, you know what I mean? Yep. And the moment you sell him, you'll do it too.
Yeah,
so.
I tend to agree. Something's going to happen from David Fafita. And the thing is, he's a few games back from injury as well, so the fitness should be building up. And when David Fafita is fit, then he's usually pretty hard to handle, even in a tough matchup this weekend. Moving on to Tim Moody, looking like Panic at the Disco hair fame. I don't mind that.
Haven't you people ever heard of?
Oh my God.
There you go,
we'll have to get karaoke up after this. That can get a zinger as well.
Thank you.
I reckon. Who would you play out of Brian Tu'o or Mulatalo? Interesting question. So Mulatalo's got the Dragons. I'm a Dragons fan, and the Sharks v Dragons rivalry is pretty big. I reckon this could actually be a close match.
If I was a very brave man, I would back myself and captain Mulatalo. So I've called him. Wow. I think he's going to be the highest scoring player of the round. But it's risky.
Oh, yeah. Mate, you can't say that about my Dragons. The Dragons are going to fire up for the local derby. I actually think this will be quite a tight game. So, yeah, we'll agree to disagree on this one. But I'm obviously completely biased in what I'm saying. Moving on to May for Dewey. I'm doing that trade, I think.
May for Dewey,
Taylor May for Dewey.
I think so.
One of the things to point out, and I've been speaking to a few people in the office today who don't realise that Dewey's actually available at centre wing. He is available at centre wing in 5'8", so you can bring him in for someone like Talon May, or you can bring him in for Cleary if you've got the right jewels. Yeah,
I've seen some people plugging him into 5'8", and I thought, that's a bit weird. Why don't you just drown him out in the centre wing where you've got plenty of other positions to put him there? But if you've got like Munster and you don't know who you want as your second one, and you don't know what to do with that second position, maybe you just put him there because you are so stacked in the centre wing. But yeah, look, with Taylor May, I've always thought he was a hold all year, really hard, and it was only this week that I looked at him a bit closer and I thought, hold on, his scores aren't even amazing. They're just getting the job done with 50s, 40s, 60s. He had that one big score of 100. I think there was another 90 throughout the year. But if you left him out more often than not, you wouldn't have bothered you most weeks. So if you can, I can get around selling him for that reason.
Question from Tobias asking, is it worth playing Manu and Suwali? First of all, Manu, absolutely lock it in, maybe even as VC. Suwali tonight at the SCG. You've just come in from outside. I haven't been outside in a while, but there's a little bit of rain about. Looks like it's going to clear up. Yeah. Is it going to affect the game too much? Is Suwali going to... could he cross for a double?
Could make him extra slipperier.
Yep.
Exactly. Hard to grab. Yeah, he looks like a slippery guy. But, yeah, I'd be playing him, man. Yeah, I think they're big-time players.
Yeah.
It's hard because I don't like to get too many of my plays in that Thursday night game because it's always a bit cursed, I think, just for SuperCoach scoring. It's a bit slower, it seems. But, yeah, I'd be playing those two boys if I had them both.
Obviously, huge game tonight. Let's do the burning issues. So, key stat that Wilfred Z's pulled up today in his SuperCoach Plus article.
2016 champion.
Yeah, exactly. And runs his own podcast as well. And it's a great stat. It's that Manu is averaging 94.3 at centre in the last 3 games in that position. So, essentially, it's been a big change. He's played a whole bunch of positions. At centre, generally, he doesn't score that well. But in the last 3 rounds, he's been playing as a roaming centre. Essentially, it's just go. Don't stick to that part of the field. Do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And his stats have been incredible in those last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm certainly not worried about him being at centre now just because he is still killing it. I'm just a little bit more concerned about that figure I brought up before where I don't think he scored more than 90 against them, and just seeing Teddy's 173 there just really made me go, ooh. So I guess you can't look too much into the history. History doesn't always repeat itself, but...
Look, if you're planning to use Grant Anderson as your loophole guy, which I certainly am, because I don't have that many non-playing players, then you have to VC tonight. So it's either Tedesco or Manu for me, and I could make arguments for either. Sam Walker is actually the form halfback of the competition in SuperCoach. His 3-round average is the best in the competition. So everyone's selling Cleary, obviously. Would Sam Walker be an option?
I've been giving him raps all week. I think people are really big on either DCE or Hughes as their replacement. I'm replacing Cleary with Hines just because I don't have him. Everyone else has Hines. But if I was in that predicament and I'd already had Hines and I needed to replace... I don't think I'd be going DCE or Hughes. I don't mind DCE. I feel like because he had a couple of bad games, he might want to really lift, especially with the Manly saga, and I feel like he might unify them in some way. But I prefer Sean O'Sutherland or Sammy Walker.
Sammy Walker.
I prefer them.
So
I prefer them, not just because they're pods. I think I prefer them.
Yep, very nice. Talking about DCE, I've tried to be talking people out of him all week because he's not kicking goals. Those big scores came when he was kicking goals, when Garrick wasn't kicking for whatever reason. So I'm avoiding there and going with Dewey instead. You reckon Sam Walker's the option there? But
it's a tough... it's not an easy matchup for the Roosters by, at all. But I just trust the Roosters. Come finals time, they always seem to, time their run well. And yeah, look, it's Broncos this week, Cowboys the week after. There's Tigers, which is kind of nice in round 23, but then Storm and Bunnies. So yeah, it's tough for the Roosters, but I just feel like he's got it in him. He's got those rainbow passes, and
I believe they've got 3 games in a row at the SCG. Don't 100% hold me to that, but that's where they...
No, you're right. I can see that now, yep.
They got a pretty good run of home games,
yep.
Which they've been missing for a lot of the year. So I think the Roosters will come home good. They're starting to show a little bit of form. They've struggled all year, but hopefully they can end the season pretty well, and guys like Manu, Tedesco and maybe Sam Walker can fire up for them. Speaking of pod halves, Adam Reynolds, very popular. 6th most purchased player this week. I won't be going there, but what are your thoughts on him?
Don't mind it because he's the man at the club. He's got to, finish the job. It's been a great season for him there and the Broncos to get themselves into the spot they're in. But if they don't sort of finish the job and finish it well, they don't have to win the grand final, but they need to keep playing well. So for them to do that, he needs to keep playing well. But he just lacks those tackle busts and the speed that some of the other guys do have.
It doesn't have the running. I mean, you want guys with running game. The top halfbacks in the competition run the ball a fair bit.
Does kick goals if that's what you're chasing, though.
Yeah, and he's just quite an injury-prone player at this time of his career.
Feels like he's been in and out a little bit too much lately. So yeah, that sort of holds me back.
Yeah, for me, he's not an option. I can see why people are doing it. There's a fair bit of chat saying shut up about Sam Walker. People are pretty keen on him.
Sorry, guys.
So
I
sorry
hate
that
to
the
ruin the
cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are watching tonight, but hopefully it hasn't stuffed it around for you. What have we got here? There's a lot of rogue chat going on, so I'll go straight to the play of the week from last week, Jeremiah Nanai.
He's got up a couple of times, Jason, and talking to the people that take him. Look out. Here goes Nanai. He's got support inside. It's Scott Drinkwater who's away, and the Cowboys are going to go back to back. Brilliant stuff from the away side. What about the lead-up work from Nanai?
Yeah, it was great footwork by the young man from Cairns.
So absolutely brilliant on the weekend. He's been brilliant all year, really. One of the rookies of the season, one of the better rookies we've seen in the NRL, let's be honest. Is he a SuperCoach buy this week, though? He's pretty popular.
Yeah, he kind of is, and he's kind of not. It really is dependent on your team. If you need to strengthen up that position, I'd be going for it. If you're just going a little bit too sideways and wasting trades when you've only got a few up your sleeve, I wouldn't. I think you can still finish the season without Nanai. Last week's probably going to be the highest score I think he'll get for the year, so we've missed that one already of that 158. There's probably some other big ones still to come. He's been on fire since about round 11, particularly like 91, 75, 77, 70, 104 and 158. So it's uber consistent, very, very good. Pros are that he's in a good team. He's got a rat's tail.
The rat's tail is extremely important.
He loves finding the line. And I don't think it's going to stop. He's got quite a few tries under his belt. I can see maybe another 3 to 5 in the next 5 games.
Yeah, so at the start of the year, I thought he was just a kick chase specialist. He was just getting up, as well as...
Put him in the AFL and he'd kill it, yeah.
Yeah, almost like Suwali, in the air, taking these bombs, or, Xavier Coates, in the air. And he scored most of his tries. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think his first 7 tries were off kicks. Then in the last couple of weeks, he's just been burning them with his running game as well. So attacking-wise, he's an absolute freak. Defensively, his stats aren't sensational, but that just doesn't matter this time of year. Stats don't matter for SuperCoach.
And stats don't matter this time of year. Throw it all out the window. Trust your gut. There's 5 more games left. Do you want him in your side? Are you too scared to not have him in your side? Work it out. Go for it. If you can afford it, do it.
For me, I'd prefer to go someone like Cameron Murray. I think I'd go ahead of him, but still... certainly a decent purchase. Let's move on. We'll take another question. Nanai or Tapane? What are your thoughts on Tapane? So strong since about sort of halfway through the year. He's just, even earlier.
He's been killing it since round 8, Tapane, and they've been really big scores the whole time. And he doesn't have to score tries to get them, so you don't have to sit there real nervous waiting for it. He just does it. As long as he's on the field, he's getting those points. So for that sake, I'd say probably Tarpany. I feel like he'll come in real handy in head-to-head finals just because you can bank those solid 70, 80, 90 points. Nanai is going to really upset you and disappoint you if you've got him in your grand final match or the qualifying final and he scores you a 30 or 40. He'll be on the, Nanai hate train. So I don't think Tarpany will let you down.
Got a question coming through. Cameron Murray or Drinkwater? Do you still own Drinkwater?
Yeah, they're 2 very different options as well. I'd probably say Cameron Murray only because I really like Drinkwater for this round and the last two rounds have obviously gone. That person can't take advantage of those rounds. So, yeah, Cam Murray, I'd play him week in, week out. Didn't matter who he was playing. So, for that reason.
Oh, question from Michael McLaughlin, Ryan McLaughlin rather. He's saying Taylor made a David Nofaluma. What are your thoughts on Noffa?
Also, don't mind that.
He's been a bit of a Supercoach gun in a pretty poor team, and now he goes to, an absolute gun team. So he should be scoring a few tries.
For me, it's that exact reason. I think, if you sort of were like losing all the time, and then you got to the, into the best side, you'd want to be playing your best footy too. Like you'd want to be like, I'm elite. I'm elite. I can fit it with the Storm. So I see him scoring. I can see him. Jumping up, doing a lot of big bangs. He'll probably even do the jersey grab.
The jersey grab would be sensational. Imagine if he's played, his entire career with the Tigers and not played finals football, and then he goes to the Storm and wins a premiership.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I don't have
the Storm in round 21.
The trades up my sleeve to be pulling these little moves out now. But here's another one I'd be liking to sort of...
If you have trades, I don't mind Storm players. I mean, Munster's a hold for the rest of the season, but someone like Jerome Hughes or Nofaluma, or even just any guy in the back line, bring in for 1 week and against the Titans, and then they've got a pretty tough run from there. If you've got the trades, that is, you'd need 8 at least to be able to pull that off. What have we got next? What does Sanks' Paradise and the Titans have in common? They struggle to climb ladders. Fair enough. We'll pay.
Can I give a live zinger?
Yes.
You can add 2 zeros to the back of my score and I'd still be beating Sangster to my ranking.
Is that true? Oh, that's mate, I can't.
Sorry, bro.
I can't fight that.
Can I get a footy?
I'm blaming it on Nathan Cleary from last week. You can just take one of these home. You can get the one that you signed, actually.
No, I'm talking about 50-50. If you put 2 zeros, that'd be 55,000.
Oh, I can't do maths.
That's all right.
I can't even keep up. Murray or Mulatalo?
Mulatalo, because their run for the Sharks is out of this world. All 5 games are awesome, but there's 4 particularly red hot ones. So Mulatalo.
Heaps of late changes coming this week. Let's do late mail. Repeating the final teams from tonight, it's relatively boring. You've got the Roosters 1-17, and then the Broncos have just switched their hookers with Walters to the bench and Turpin starting. Mitchell Moses only set to miss the 2 weeks. It was originally thought that he might miss the rest of the regular season. Only 2 weeks and you own him, so that's a message from the gods.
Oh, thank you very much. I need that, yeah. I'm very scared about not having 2 halves for the run home. But yeah, if he can come back and just be a backup, I might not even play him most games. I'm a bit awkward with the finger, but it's nice to just have that insurance if something does happen. So I'll take that.
As I mentioned earlier, Grant Anderson, this is from our late mail man, Tim Williams, is expected to drop out of the side. That means young Tonamapia comes in. Speaking of Rat's Tails, one of the great Rat's Tails in rugby league. I'm not even sure if he still has it, but he did a couple of years ago.
The pioneer of Rat's Tails.
The pioneer of Rat's Tails. So that could nuff out Grant Anderson. So it's actually good news for Supercoach.
Yeah, I don't know him, so it's not so great for me. So I'd probably prefer him to be running around in teams and causing A nightmares and that sort of stuff. But
yeah, I mean, the problem is he plays tomorrow night in that 6 p.m. game, so it's the second game.
Yeah, everyone's going to get the information.
You've got to, you'll know it early, but you still might need to pull your VC loophole early too.
I think it's important for Storm players that we do have too. So like Munsters, if people have got, Harry Grant, which they probably should, I don't. Jerome Hughes, if they're not as weak in defence and, and they've got more momentum and they've got the ball and they're dominating, then their players should be able to play better. So I like the idea of them chopping a few of those fellas out and bringing in Tonamapia and Coates.
Josh Wombat Burns is saying, Zinger, Timmy looks like he's on the lookout for a cheap hooker. Harry Grant will do a job for you.
Yeah, never look for the expensive ones.
We'll zing that one, can we? Yes, there we go. A reminder: if you do get Zinger of the week, you can.
Got Tyrone Wishart, he's bottom dollar.
Yeah, you could win one of these balls on the table right here. You can even get it. Ask for a hat. You might even get a hat as well. And direct messages too, because Antigone's been sorted, going through the whole list of winners from this year. So if you've hit us up on the Facebook Messenger page, then you should be able to get your ball or hat or whatever you ask for. Moving on to Cameron Munster, expected to take up the goal-kicking duties. Does that make him a captaincy option? I mean, I've got the C on him for now.
Yeah, it does. Like the Titans are a really good matchup for them. Surely they're going to give them a shellacking. I can just see that being like a 40 to 50 point, score for the Storm. So
it's a home game for the Storm too at Amy Park, where they tend to go a bit better. So I've got Munster locked in as captain. I know goal kicking is not a very good goal kicker.
Yeah, that's what
doesn't actually add
some
too
points.
much. Yeah, but if it is a 40 points to whatever scoreline, then surely he kicks at least a few. He gets a couple in front of the post that he can just throw over.
Yeah, hopefully they can score more through the middle, being a weaker side. But then
yes, let's hope so. Moving on to Andrew Davey, he's got a concussion. Could be replaced by Ben Trebojevic in that team. So Trebojevic could go from the bench into the starting side, which is good news for people who still own Trebojevic, and a lot of people still do. And then finally, looks like Ruben Cotter is expected to remain on the bench for at least another week. So not good news for those who have held on. Moving on to who to use as last reserve, Crichton tonight or Zach Lomax?
I'm
Crichton
Crichton,
tonight's
but who's the Drags playing?
Crichton is actually relying on attacking stats much more this year. I own Crichton. He needs tries and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's going to come against the Broncos.
You'd be up against Talakai, Zach Lomax.
For Lomax, yeah, that's a point, yeah.
Maybe you can speed him, pizzazz him a little bit. I feel like the Sharks should win that pretty comfortably, though, so I'd probably go with Crichton.
The Dragons are going to come good in that game. Let's do... It's a local derby. They're going to fire up for a derby. It's like when the Dragons play the Roosters on Anzac Day. They always fire up. It's a little bit like that against the Sharks.
No, I do get that vibe about those two beach sides, indeed.
Let's move on to guilty pleasures. So this is the player that you shouldn't buy, but your heart is telling you you have to do it. Who's that for you?
Oh, this week, like if I had, and I still do have the trade, so I mean, I might end up getting a bit weird and just using my last trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be Dewey and no Faluma. I can't really split them. They're both. I'd probably say Dewey just because he kicks goals and he's the man at their club. But then the Storm can start working it out and start scoring points, and Nofo can be on the back of 3 tries. In a couple of those games, you're going to get a pretty good score out of him.
Yeah, it's Dewey for me. The other guy I feel a little bit dirty about is Jerome Hughes, because a lot of that trade doesn't make sense with the run home that they've got, but they've got the Titans this weekend. So I feel like I'll hit this week hard. And I do have the trades. If he starts stuffing up in the next few weeks, I can trade him out to someone who's got a good matchup coming home as well.
Yeah, I think if you're low on trades, sometimes people can get too target this round and then we're I've got to get Jerome Hughes because that game's easy. Have a look at the rest of the other games because you might end up going.
It is a tough, I mean, Titans is really tempting this week. Then it does get pretty tough from there. They've got 4 top 8 teams to finish the season, so it's pretty tough draw for them. Moving on to today's host, dressed by Salvos. Fair enough. I mean, you look sensational.
Look, I could have picked this up in the Salvos. You wouldn't know. It's pretty much the same thing. Tara Cash. Sorry, Tara Cash. They're not going to sponsor me, are they?
Wow, you're just right. This is actually custom made for me, actually. So definitely not from Salvos at Tempe. That's for sure.
I got a custom made one too, man. Look, I want to rub it in.
Actually, there's one here from Trent King saying Timmy's guilty pleasure is that dirty mo.
It comes and goes,
like
but look, I feel like when I
it.
don't have it, I score poorly. So it's got to, I'm getting a very, very superstitious. I've got the camo undies on and everything like that at the moment. So
We've got one of the the reigning champion of SuperCoach right here. We have a lot on the show always, but one of the great champs was our 2017 champ, Sam Rolfe. Overcame a whole bunch of diversity to take that win. This is that video from 2017.
Hello Supercoaches, Tom Sangster here. I'm here in Brisbane to meet the 2017 Supercoach winner, Banyo boy, Sam. He's got many names in Supercoach land. Let's meet him and his lovely family. Hello guys.
Hey Tom, how are you? Hey Tommy. 2014, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I had an operation. I had a portacath, what they call a portacath. It was an implant which runs across and it sits just above your heart, and that's when you have chemo, or the way I chose to have chemo. That's the way that it's administered that way. Good girl. So everything sort of went well for me. It was tough, chemo's not fun, as most people know. Cancer's not any better. But it was a tough sort of 3 years. But just as we were getting towards the end of it, I'm thinking, great, I've got the appointment to have the operation to get the portacath out. Before I got to have the op, it sort of disintegrated inside the body and just broke apart.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I had an operation at a 20 centimetre tube and little bits and pieces stuck in the heart that they had to try and withdraw.
And that was this year during this
season.
During this season.
During SuperCoach.
That was around the weekend Lane debuted for Manly.
And you've obviously got a great family around you. What's it like having these guys around you every day?
They're the best. They're the best. We always look at it like there's somebody out there doing it rougher.
That's right. There absolutely is people out there doing it worse, and we just feel very fortunate. The next dream is to go to New York, so that's another reality.
Obviously a home game, and then one day go to New York. So.
Yep.
You might be able to keep it, though. Don't take it to the tuck shop tomorrow.
Great man, Sam Rolfe, and he's doing pretty well in SuperCoach this year as well, I believe. Captaincy is going to be huge in head-to-head finals. Let's do Cope's captains. Nico Hines, extremely popular this week, and he will be for the rest of the year because he's got good matchups every round. As I've said, I think the Dragons will fire up. I'm going away from Hines this week, but certainly is a popular option, and I'm completely biased. And coaching with my heart and not my head on this one, but still, I think that Hines is a little bit of a risk this week.
I don't know that he's a risk.
Yeah, risk is not the right word.
Yeah, I mean, he was my first thought, and sometimes your first thought should be the guy you go with. But I think I'm going to fade him as well. As I said, I don't want to go with the one I think is going to be the most common. I want to find someone else that's probably still going to do well that won't be the most common. But look, against your club struggles against a lot of sides, man. I know against the Sharks, there's a bit of that rivalry there, but that's the only thing that would make me think
it's the time of the year where the Dragons tend to fade off late in the season. Usually, it's related to some sort of player
There's still got a lot to play for, though.
I mean, can still make the 8. But usually there's some sort of player misbehaviour at this time of year and completely stuffs it up, or a player has a particular barbecue at their place and things fall off.
Imagine the barbie he's going to have at the end of the season before he goes overseas.
Exactly. I still think the Dragons are going to fire up for this one. I'm avoiding Nico Hines, but he is at 17% on the captaincy scale. That's way ahead of James Tedesco, who's second on 11%. So people are going with Teddy, straight captain in the first game of the round. It's an interesting selection because it doesn't let you use the VC loophole. But as we've said a number of times on this show, I think the loophole is overrated.
Yeah, I definitely would have like to have just straight captained someone last week in an earlier game and not overthought it myself. But yeah, sometimes you can overthink it, and we don't often always use the loophole. So,
what about Latrell at 9%? They've got the Warriors. It's a day game, and it's on the Sunshine Coast. So you'd think it's. Look, I think it could be a little bit high scoring.
Yeah, it could be good. The thing I like about that one for Latrell is the fact that he had 3 opportunities to seal the deal for the Bunnies in kicking field goal, missed all 3 of them. So I feel like he's a big game player. He loves the big moments. The fact that he missed out on that opportunity, you should see a bounce back from him.
I think he will bounce back, and he also played centre for a fair bit of that game as well, which meant that his runs were down, the work was down. At fullback, where we assume he'll be for most of the game, I feel like his work rate will go through the roof. He's actually averaging 11 runs at fullback since he came back from that injury, which is not high for an NRL fullback, but for Latrell, it's absolutely through the roof. And he's very efficient in picking his moments. Munster at 7% ownership, 7% captaincy.
Wow, okay. Is he bigger on the VC or?
9% on VC. So he's got a fair bit of action going on there.
Yeah. Look, I kind of like it myself. I'm sort of hovering. I mentioned he was one of the 3s I'm around. He's probably one of the least 3 I'm probably going to sort of end up on, I think. The missed goal kicks sort of worry me. I do like the matchup, but I feel like maybe, what if, it could be Jerome that just kills it, or maybe my boy Wishart, who I'm going to end up leaving on the bench, comes out and tons up for some reason, which will be annoying.
You listen to Cooper Cronk in commentary, and one of the big things that he says is that at the Storm is that if one player has the hot hand that day, they let them take over. Yep. So if Jerome Hughes has the hot hand on the weekend, or whoever it happens to be, Harry Grant perhaps, they'll just let them take over the game, and if they're ahead, then Munster might just sit back and not do that much, which is my fear with him. I'm still going to captain him anyway.
Oh, nice.
But look, I think the Storm
the
will
matchup
win that pretty
it's
well.
not going to give you too much dramas, I don't think.
Yeah, and we've got Joey Manu at 5% on the captaincy scale, so that's in tonight's game. You'd have to be going straight C on him tonight.
It's pottish, and he's still consistent enough to do it, you know what I mean? I'm just being a bit greedy, and I've seen that his highest score was 90. I think it's 90. I could be very wrong on this. I should check it up. I've said it about 5 times on the show, so let's make sure it's a true fact. But yeah, just for that sake, I'm trying to chase a potential 150. He probably will get 150 now that I'm saying he can only get 90 against him, but yeah, we'll have a look.
Moving on to the VCs while you check that stat. Tedesco, really popular, so you combine the VCs and Cs on Tedesco, and he's extremely popular. Similar for Munster, similar for Manu. Obviously, people are targeting tonight's game and that big matchup between the Storm and the Titans tomorrow. Nico Hines at 8%, I find, is an interesting VC, playing quite late in the round. I feel like that's just probably people who haven't made the head-to-head finals.
I was trying to be a little bit cheeky and see if I could just fade a lot of things that everyone else was going to do and VC really late and then captain really late. But that would depend on Momasia, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's being a bit too rolling at the dice, just fingers crossing he doesn't get named. Because if I got a really good vice captain and then couldn't captain him, that'd be really stressful.
Yep, absolutely. We've got questions till the end of the show. Remember, send your zingers through, guys. You can win one of these balls. Sitting on the table here, does Brown score well without Moses in the team? Of course, the coach's son is coming in there, Jacob Arthur. So Dylan Brown presumably takes on more responsibility. There was some chat during the week that Clint Gutherson would play in the halves as well. That's been basically said that that's not going to happen. Yeah, quashed by the coach. So, anyway, back to the original question. Dylan Brown.
It could go 2 ways. I feel like if the Eels aren't playing great footy and, they're just sort of dropping the ball and there's a bit mistakes and it's a bit, disjointed, and maybe they're losing field possession with, Moses' kicking game not being there. Maybe they don't play a good brand of footy and that doesn't give them good opportunities. But then again, he's probably going to be the main fiddle now. So more touches, more running of the ball. I'd kind of want to give it a look before I sort of went all in on that, though. So, yeah, have an assessment of it this week and then consider him more as a captain going forward, maybe later or something.
We've got a question from Nathan asking Hughes or Sullivan. He's a guy that you've brought up. O'Sullivan.
O'Sullivan, yeah.
Yeah. What's the appeal with O'Sullivan?
Oh, well, okay, bias. You've been talking about your Dragons. I'm a Panthers fan, so I just think that him filling in, I like the type of footy he plays. I think he'll be able to just pass the ball to some other good players in the Penrith side and get try assists from it. That's simple answer.
That's it. Put through, kick out, Targo, Taylor May with a big bullet pass out to the wing. VC Munster and Captain Cleary. That's from Michael Motherwell. Shouldn't be Captain Cleary this weekend, that's for sure.
Oh, and if he's going to keep him, he's going to loop him possibly.
Oh, you loop him, yeah, I could see.
He might want to wait a week on who he's going to actually move on for his halfback. Or
and then we've got Holmes or Nanai. Interesting question. Both
like
the
to
Cowboys.
pick or to play, or
I'm assuming as a trade.
Yeah, I'd go Holmes.
I like Holmes. I don't own him, and he's going to be hard to watch.
Nanai's going to be more of a pod. Holmes, I just feel like he's just doing it easily. Like he's doing it real easily, and if he does score a couple of tries, you know,
he's
it could be massive.
so pretty good matchup this week. It's the Bulldogs this week, which theoretically should be a good matchup, but it's not as good as it was.
Doggies are a good side at the moment, yeah.
And then it's got a few tough matchups coming up too.
It's not
the easiest draw from now. If you're going to get on Valentine Holmes, you needed to do it 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, you probably did, but he's still one of the better centre wingers, so
he's going to be tough to watch in the run home, that's for sure, as a non-owner. Hughes or DCE? How would you split those two? Or save trades? This is from Marcus. He's only got 2 trades left.
It's hard because, you know, the Storm have got a lot to play for. They've got to get themselves into contention, play good footy. Manly have got to, you know, stay in the 8, or even get into the 8. I think they might be on the cusp. I think I like Hughes' running game, but I think DCE's just the man there and the captain. The guy, it falls on his shoulders. He did me a good job last year. He scored pretty poorly in the last 2 rounds, and that makes me think that he's due. So I'd probably lean that way. Andrew
Hoskin is asking if Clemmer is playing, and look, I'm not 100% sure, but there is some mail floating around that he may even. There's drama at the club. Was he named? Yeah.
I don't think he's
wasn't
playing.
even named, so he can't. If he hasn't been named, then he can't actually play.
Yeah.
There is some chat that he's going to get off that disciplinary thing. There's a lot of stuff floating around that, but check out the Daily Telegraph tomorrow because there's going to be some pretty big stories on
good crosswords in the Daily Telegraph.
Good crosswords. The quiz is quite good as well. Much easier than the SMH quiz, that's for sure. Moving on to I think we're running out. Can you think of the best zinger of tonight? What do you think it was?
Did you read the Katoni Staggs one?
I can't say that on air.
Okay, you can't read that one on air.
What was it again?
Oh, look. Because it involved.
There was a.
Yeah.
Can we still give it to that person though?
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was like an under the table zinger.
Respect.
It was like a little flick pass.
Respect. We can't say it on show because it mentions an off-field incident involving Katoni Staggs, but we'll still give it to you anyway. Thanks for coming on tonight, Tim. Always great to have you on. Good luck tonight. Hopefully you pick your right VC or your C over the weekend, and good luck in your head-to-head finals. We'll catch you next week.